Jake Morrison felt his coffee cup shake in his hand as the ship's warning alarm screamed through the bridge. He set the cup down and walked quickly to the main screen, where his crew was already working at their stations. The stars outside looked normal, but Jake knew something big was coming. "Report," he said to his second-in-command. Lisa Park. She was one of the best officers he had ever worked with, and right now her face looked very serious. "Sir, we have a massive contact coming out of hyperspace at the edge of our solar system," Lisa said, her fingers moving fast over her control panel. "It's huge, Admiral. Bigger than anything we've ever seen." Jake nodded and pressed a button on his chair. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison on the Liberty's Edge. We have an unknown contact. Move to alert status, but do not power weapons unless I give the order." The bridge became very quiet except for the soft sounds of the computers. Jake had been in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like what appeared on their screens. The alien ship was enormous, at least 50 kilometers long, with tall crystal towers that seemed to glow with their own light. It looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Tom Brady, the young communications officer. "How did they build something that big?" Jake didn't answer because he was thinking the same thing. Humanity had been traveling to the stars for only 30 years. They had colonies on 3 nearby star systems and thought they were doing pretty well. But this ship made everything humans had built look like toys. "Admiral, we're getting a signal," Tom said. "It's coming from the alien ship." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen changed from showing the alien ship to showing the inside of what looked like a throne room. Standing in the center was a creature that looked almost human but was clearly not. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore long robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal, and there was a crown on its head that floated without touching. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of the third planet," the alien said. Its voice was cold and made Jake think of winter nights. "I am High Arbiter Velthus of the Galaxy Council. Your species has been judged." Jake felt his hands make fists, but he kept his voice calm. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. What do you want?" Velthus smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "What I want is not important. What the Galaxy Council demands is all that matters. Your species has committed crimes against the natural order of this galaxy." "What crimes?" Jake asked. Behind him, he could hear Lisa typing fast, probably sending messages to Earth Command. "You have spread to 3 star systems without permission from the Council," Velthus said, counting on his long fingers. "You have built weapons that can destroy planets. Most serious of all, you have refused to accept the Council's rule over this sector of space." Jake felt anger growing in his chest. "No one told us we needed permission to explore space. And we built those weapons to protect ourselves." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Velthus said. "The Galaxy Council has ruled this part of space for 10,000 years. Every intelligent species must bow to our authority or be removed." On Earth, Dr. Helen Carter was watching the same broadcast in the United Nations Emergency Command Center. She was sitting next to General Kevin Brooks, who was in charge of protecting the planet. Both of them looked worried. "Helen, what do you think?" Kevin asked quietly. Helen watched the alien on the screen and noticed something strange. "Kevin, look at his eyes. He's scared of something. This isn't just about power, they're afraid." Meanwhile, in space near the edge of the solar system, Captain Amy Rodriguez was piloting her small stealth ship called the Shadow Runner. She was trying to get close enough to the alien fleet to scan them without being seen. Amy was one of the best pilots in the Earth Defense Force, and her ship was built to be nearly invisible. "Come on, baby," she whispered to her ship as she moved closer to the aliens. "Let's see what they're really up to." Her scanners began picking up strange readings. The alien ships were arranged in a defensive pattern, but not the way someone would set up to attack a planet. It looked more like they were hiding from something else. Back on the Liberty's Edge, Velthus was still talking. "The Galaxy Council is generous. We will give your species exactly 72 hours to surrender. You will power down all weapons, give us control of your military ships, and remove all defenses from your planets and space stations. And if we refuse? Jake asked, even though he was pretty sure he knew the answer. Then your species will be eliminated, Velthus said simply. We have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Your primitive technology cannot stand against the might of the Galaxy Council. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all good people who had joined the Defense Force to protect Earth and the colonies. Tom Brady was only 24 years old and had a wife and baby daughter back on Earth. Lisa Park had 2 teenage sons who were planning to join the Defense Force when they graduated. All of them were looking at Jake, waiting for him to tell them what to do. We'll need time to discuss your demands, Jake said finally. You have 72 hours, Velthus repeated. Do not make the mistake of thinking you can fight us. We have weapons that can crack planets in half and shields that can stop any attack you might try. Use your time wisely. The transmission ended, and the screen went back to showing the alien ship floating in space like a metal mountain. Admiral, Lisa said softly, what are we going to do? Jake looked at the alien ship again. It was beautiful in a way that made him think of cathedrals and monuments, but he knew it was full of weapons that could destroy everything he cared about. Somewhere on that ship, Velthus was probably laughing at how easy this was going to. But Jake had been in the military long enough to know that things were not always what they seemed. The aliens were powerful, that was clear, but Dr. Carter was right about something being strange. Why give humans 3 days to surrender? Why not just attack right away if they were so sure they would win? Tom, get me a secure line to Earth. Command, Jake said. And send a message to all ship captains. Tell them to start emergency protocols, but keep it quiet. Yes, sir, Tom said. Jake sat back in his captain's chair and thought about his wife Sarah, who was back on Earth working as a teacher. He thought about all the children in her classroom who didn't know that aliens had just threatened to destroy their world. He thought about the colonies where millions of humans were living their lives, probably having dinner or going to work or playing with their kids. The Galaxy Council thought humans were primitive and weak. They thought this would be easy. Jake Morrison smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. They were about to learn that humans could be full of surprises. 48 hours had passed since the Galaxy Council gave their ultimatum. All across Earth, people watched the news and waited to see what would happen. Some were scared. Others were angry. But most just felt helpless as they looked up at the night sky and knew that somewhere out there, aliens were planning to destroy their world. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge and gave orders that made his heart feel heavy. All ships, begin powering down weapon systems. Move to surrender positions as ordered. Lieutenant Tom Brady looked confused. Sir, are we really going to give up? Jake looked at his young communications officer and spoke quietly, so only Tom could hear. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make your enemy think you've already lost. On the main screen, the Earth Defense Force fleet was spreading out and lowering their shields. To anyone watching, it looked like humanity was getting ready to surrender. The alien ships stayed in their position at the edge of the solar system, waiting. But deep underground in the Rocky Mountains, something very different was happening. Colonel Ryan Phillips walked through a tunnel that had been carved out of solid rock. The tunnel led to a huge room filled with machines that hummed with power. Most people on Earth didn't know this place existed. How long until we're ready? Ryan asked Dr. Sophie Chen, who was working at a computer that covered an entire wall. Sophie pushed her glasses up on her nose and looked at the numbers on her screen. The quantum entanglement arrays are charging up now. We should be ready in 24 hours. Ryan nodded. Project Prometheus had been humanity's biggest secret for 10 years. While everyone thought Earth scientists were just trying to build better spaceships, they had actually been working on something much more important. They had learned how to send messages instantly across space using quantum entanglement, but that was just the beginning. The arrays in the asteroid belt are reporting ready, said Major Lisa Wong, who was watching screens that showed the entire solar system. The ones near Jupiter are still coming online. Ryan smiled. The Galaxy Council thought they knew everything about human technology, but they had no idea what was really hidden in space around Earth. For years, small ships had been placing quantum field generators throughout the solar system. They looked like space junk or old satellites, but they were actually part of the most powerful weapon humans had ever built. Meanwhile, Captain Amy Rodriguez was still flying her stealth ship near the alien fleet. She had been watching them for 2 days, and what she saw made her very worried. The alien ships weren't just arranged to attack Earth. They were positioned like they were hiding from something. "Shadow Runner to Earth Command," Amy said into her radio. "I'm sending you scan data now. These aliens aren't here just to conquer us. They're running from something." On Earth, Dr. Helen Carter was studying Amy's data in her laboratory. What she saw made her call General Kevin Brooks right away. "Kevin, you need to see this," Helen said when the general arrived. "The alien ships have damage on their backsides. Old damage like they've been in fights before." Kevin looked at the pictures on Helen's computer. "What kind of fights?" "I don't know, but look at this," Helen said, pointing to more data. "Their ships are missing parts, like they left somewhere in a hurry and didn't have time to make repairs." General Brooks felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Helen, are you saying these aliens are refugees?" "Maybe," Helen said. "But if they are, what are they running from?" High, above Earth, aboard the alien flagship, High Arbiter Velthis was having problems of his own. One of his advisors, a younger alien named Keshan, came to him with bad news. "My lord, our scouts have detected quantum signatures moving toward this system," Keshan said nervously. "The Devourers have found us." Velthis felt fear run through his body like ice water. The Devourers were ancient machines that ate entire planets and turned everything into more of themselves. They had already destroyed most of the Galaxy Council's worlds. This fleet was all that was left of their great civilization. "How long do we have?" Velthis asked. "Perhaps 6 months, maybe less," Kesahan replied. "My lord, maybe we should ask the humans for help instead of trying to conquer them." Velthis made his hands into fists. "Never. We are the Galaxy Council. We do not ask primitive species for help." But inside, Velthis was scared. The humans had to surrender soon, or there wouldn't be time to use Earth as a base to fight the Devourers. Back on Earth in the Pentagon, General Brooks was meeting with the most important military leaders from around the world. The room was full of generals and admirals from every continent, but they were all looking at one person. "Colonel Phillips," General Brooks said, "tell us about Project Prometheus." Ryan Phillips stood up and walked to a large screen. When he pressed a button, the screen showed a map of the entire solar system with hundreds of small dots scattered around it. "Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 years, we have been preparing for this day," Ryan said. "Each of these dots represents a quantum field generator. We have them hidden throughout the solar system, disguised as space debris and old satellites." An admiral from Japan raised her hand. "What do these generators do?" Ryan smiled. "They can create quantum field effects that mess with alien technology. We discovered this by accident when we were working on faster-than-light communication. The same quantum fields that let us send messages instantly can also push objects into different dimensions." A general from Germany looked confused. "You mean we can make things disappear?" "Not exactly disappear," Ryan said. "We can move them to a parallel quantum state where they can't affect our dimension anymore. It's like they're still there, but in a place we can't touch and they can't touch us." General Brooks stood up. "How sure are we that this will work on the alien ships?" Dr. Sophie Chen, who had come up from the underground facility, answered that question. "We've been studying the quantum signatures from their ships for 2 days. Their technology uses quantum effects for power and shields. Our field generators should be able to push their entire fleet into parallel space." "And the aliens themselves?" asked the admiral from Japan. "They'll go with their ships," Sophie said. "They won't be hurt, but they'll be in a place where they can't threaten Earth anymore." Ryan looked around the room at all the military leaders. "The aliens think we're primitive and weak. They have no idea that we've accidentally developed the perfect weapon to use against their technology." At that moment, Tom Brady's voice came over the speakers in the room. "General Brooks, this is the Liberty's Edge. Admiral Morrison wants to speak with you." General Brooks pressed a button. "Jake, what's your status?" Jake's voice sounded tired but determined. "Kevin, our ships are in surrender position as planned, but I'm getting reports from our deep space sensors. There's something else coming toward our solar system, something big. Dr. Helen Carter, who was also in the Pentagon meeting, spoke up. Admiral, we think the Galaxy Council might be running from something called the Devourers, ancient machines that destroy planets. There was silence on the radio for a moment. Then Jake's voice came back, but now it sounded different. Kevin, if that's true, then maybe these aliens aren't our real enemy. Colonel Phillips looked at his watch. We have 18 hours until the alien ultimatum expires, and 6 hours until Project Prometheus is fully charged. General Brooks made a decision that would change everything. Jake, continue with the surrender plan. Make the aliens think they've won, but be ready to fight if we need to. Understood, Jake replied. Ryan Phillips looked at the map of quantum generators one more time. In just a few hours, the Galaxy Council would learn that the primitive humans they wanted to conquer were actually the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just didn't know it yet. The 72 hours were almost over. On Earth, people held their breath as they watched the news. Children stayed home from school. Workers left their offices early to be with their families. Everyone knew that in just a few minutes, humanity would either surrender to the aliens or die fighting them. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge and watched the countdown on his screen. 3 minutes left. His crew was quiet, but he could see they were ready. Tom Brady sat at his communication station with his hand over the button that would send the signal to Colonel Phillips. Lisa Park watched her tactical display, where she could see every human ship in the solar system. Admiral, Lisa said quietly, all ships report ready for Operation Quantum Storm. Jake nodded. Operation Quantum Storm was the code name for what they were about to do. Only the ship captains knew what was really going to happen. The rest of the crews thought they were preparing to fight a normal battle against impossible odds. On the alien flagship, High Arbiter Velthus sat on his floating throne and smiled. In 2 minutes, the primitive humans would have to surrender or watch their planet burn. Either way, he would have a new base to use against the Devourers. My lord, said his advisor Keshan, the human ships are still in surrender position. I think they will give up without a fight. Velthus laughed. Of course they will. What choice do they have? Their tiny weapons cannot even scratch our shields. But Captain Amy Rodriguez, still hidden in her stealth ship near the alien fleet, was watching something that made her very excited. Earth Command, this is Shadowrunner. The alien ships are clustering together. They're making themselves into one big target. Deep underground in the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Ryan Phillips watched the final countdown on his screens. Dr. Sophie Chen stood next to him, her hand on the master control for Project Prometheus. All around them, the quantum field generators hummed with more power than had ever been used by humans before. 30 seconds, Sophie said. Ryan spoke into his microphone. All stations, this is Prometheus Control. Prepare for quantum field activation. On the Liberty's Edge, Jake Morrison's radio crackled. Admiral, this is General Brooks. You are authorized to proceed with Operation Quantum Storm. Jake looked at his crew one more time. Tom, open a channel to the alien flagship. The main screen showed High Arbiter Velthus again. The alien looked very pleased with himself. Human Admiral, Velthus said, your time is up. Do you surrender, or do we destroy your pathetic world? Jake Morrison smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. High Arbiter, I have a message for you and your Galaxy Council. Speak quickly, Velthus said. My patience is ending. The message is this, Jake said. Humanity does not surrender, humanity does not bow, and humanity is not as primitive as you think, Velthus laughed. Brave words from someone about to die. Very well. Destroy their moon first, let them watch it burn before we kill them all. But Jake was still smiling. Tom, send the signal. Tom Brady pressed the button that sent a special message to Colonel Phillips deep underground. At the same time, Lisa Park pressed another button that sent the same message to every hidden quantum generator in the solar system. In the underground facility, Dr. Sophie Chen saw the signal appear on her screen. Activation signal received. Beginning quantum field generation in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the master control button. All across the solar system, hundreds of quantum field generators that had been disguised as space junk suddenly came to life. They had been placed carefully over many years, positioned so that they could create a massive quantum field that would cover the entire area where the Galaxy Council fleet was waiting. The effect was not visible at first. Space looked the same. The stars were still shining. But something was happening that the aliens could not see or understand. Captain Amy Rodriguez, watching from her stealth ship, was the first to notice the change. "What the hell?" she whispered as her instruments began showing impossible readings. On the alien flagship, Velthus was getting ready to give the order to fire when one of his crew members started shouting, "My lord, something is wrong with our power systems." "What?" Velthus spun around to look at his control panels. "The quantum resonance in our engines is changing," the alien crew member said, fear in his voice. "I've never seen readings like this. All around the Galaxy Council fleet, the quantum field that powered their ships was being changed by the human generators. The aliens had built their technology to use quantum effects, but they had never imagined that someone could change those effects from the outside." On the Liberty's edge, Jake Morrison watched his tactical display as something amazing happened. The alien ships began to flicker like old television screens. One moment they were there, solid and real and threatening. The next moment they were transparent like ghosts. "Admiral," Lisa Park said, her voice full of wonder, "the quantum field is working. The alien ships are being shifted into parallel space." High Arbiter Velthus felt his ship shaking around him. The walls seemed to be fading away, and he could see through them to the stars beyond. "What is happening?" he screamed at his crew. But his crew was disappearing too, not dying but fading away like smoke in the wind. Velthus tried to grab his control panel, but his hands passed right through it. "Impossible!" he shouted. "Humans are primitive. They cannot do this." Those were the last words anyone heard from High Arbiter Velthus. A moment later, the entire Galaxy Council fleet simply vanished. 50 massive alien warships, each one capable of destroying planets, were gone as if they had never existed. Quantum field generators had pushed the alien ships and everyone on them into a parallel dimension. They were still alive, still existing, but in a place where they could not touch or threaten anyone in normal space. On the Liberty's edge, the bridge was completely silent for almost a minute. Everyone stared at their screens, which now showed empty space where the alien fleet had been. Finally, Tom Brady spoke in a whisper. "Admiral, they're gone. The aliens are completely gone." Jake Morrison sat down in his captain's chair and let out a long breath. "Tom, send a message to all ships. Tell them that the threat is over." "What should I tell them happened to the aliens, sir?" Jake looked at the empty space on his screen and thought about High Arbiter Velthus, who had been so sure that humans were primitive and weak. "Tell them that the Galaxy Council learned something important today. Tell them they learned that humans are full of surprises." Deep underground, Colonel Phillips and Dr. Sophie Chen were watching their instruments to make sure the quantum field was stable. The alien ships were safely locked in parallel space, unable to return unless the humans chose to bring them back. "Sophie," Ryan said, "we actually did it. We made an entire alien fleet disappear." Sophie looked at her screens, where she could still detect the quantum signatures of the alien ships in their parallel dimension. "Ryan, we didn't just beat them. We did something that should be impossible. We moved matter between dimensions." At that moment, Amy Rodriguez's voice came over the radio from her position near where the alien fleet had been. "Earth Command, this is Shadowrunner. I'm detecting small craft in the area. Looks like escape pods and shuttles. The aliens left some people behind." General Brooks, who was listening from the Pentagon, spoke into his microphone. "Captain Rodriguez, are the small craft threatening us?" "No, sir," Amy replied. "They're sending distress signals. I think they want to surrender." Jake Morrison smiled again, but this time it was a kinder smile. "General Brooks, I think it's time we had a real conversation with our alien visitors. But this time, we'll be talking as equals." The greatest threat in human history had lasted exactly 72 hours and 37 seconds. and it had ended not with explosions or death, but with the Galaxy Council simply vanishing from existence, leaving only a few survivors to tell the story of how they had learned that humans were not primitive at all. 3 days had passed since the Galaxy Council fleet vanished from normal space. The whole world was still trying to understand what had happened. News reporters kept saying the same thing over and over. Humanity had made 50 alien warships disappear in seconds. Dr. Helen Carter sat across from a young alien in a small room aboard the Liberty's Edge. The alien looked scared and tired. His name was Keshan, and he had been in one of the small ships that got left behind when the main fleet disappeared. "Please," Keshan said in broken English, "you must understand. The Council was wrong to threaten you, but we are not your enemies." Helen leaned forward. "Then tell me about the Devourers." Keshan's big black eyes got even bigger. "How do you know that name?" "We've been watching your ships for days," Helen said. "We know you were running from something. Tell me what the Devourers are." Keshan was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking, and what he said made Helen's blood run cold. "The Devourers are machines, very old machines," he began. "No one knows who built them or why. They eat planets. They turn everything into more machines like themselves. They have been destroying worlds for thousands of years." "How many worlds have they destroyed?" Helen asked. "All of them," Keshan whispered. "Every world the Galaxy Council ruled. Billions of people dead. Our fleet was all that was left of our civilization." Meanwhile, in space near Jupiter, Captain Amy Rodriguez was leading a group of scout ships on a very important mission. Her instruments had detected something moving toward the solar system, something big and fast. "Earth Command, this is Captain Rodriguez," Amy said into her radio. "We have confirmation. There are unknown ships heading toward our system. They'll be here in about 4 months." General Kevin Brooks, listening from Earth, felt his stomach drop. "Amy, can you tell what kind of ships they are?" "Negative, sir, but they're huge, much bigger than the Galaxy Council ships were, and there are a lot of them." Back on the Liberty's Edge, Admiral Jake Morrison was meeting with his senior officers. They were looking at pictures and data that Keshan had given them about the Devourers. "These machines don't negotiate," Jake said, pointing at the screen. "They don't take prisoners, they just destroy everything and use the materials to build more of themselves." Lieutenant Tom Brady raised his hand. "Admiral, why don't we just leave the Galaxy Council where they are? Let the Devourers fight each other." Lisa Park shook her head. "Tom, if these Devourers destroy the Council fleet, they'll have all that alien technology to copy. They'll become even more dangerous." Jake nodded. "Lisa's right. Plus, we might need the Council's help to fight these things." Deep underground in the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Ryan Phillips was working with Dr. Sophie Chen to understand how their quantum field technology might work against the Devourers. The news was not good. "The problem is that the Devourers are machines," Sophie explained to a room full of military leaders. "Our quantum fields work on the aliens because their ships use quantum effects for power. But if the Devourers use different technology, our weapon might not work on them." Colonel Phillips looked at the data they had gathered. "We need to know more about how these machines work, and the only way to get that information is from the Galaxy Council." General Brooks made a decision that surprised everyone. "Then we bring them back." The room got very quiet. Finally, an admiral from the Navy spoke up. "Sir, are you sure? They did threaten to destroy Earth." "Yes, they did," General Brooks said. "But now we have something they need, and they have something we need. It's time to make a deal." 2 days later, the quantum field generators around the solar system powered up again. But this time, instead of pushing things into parallel space, they were pulling things back out. High Arbiter Veltis appeared on the bridge of his flagship and immediately fell to his knees. For 5 days, he had been trapped in a place where nothing worked, where he could see his home dimension but not touch it. It had been like being a ghost. "Impossible," he whispered, looking around at his ship. Everything was exactly as it had been when they vanished. "How are we back?" His answer came from the main screen where Admiral Jake Morrison appeared. "High Arbiter," Jake said. Welcome back to normal space. I think we need to talk. An hour. Later, Velthus was sitting in a conference room aboard the Liberty's Edge. He looked very different from the proud alien who had demanded Earth's surrender a week ago. Now he looked tired and defeated. You could have left us in that place forever, Velthus said quietly. Yes, we could have, Jake replied. But we have a problem that we both need to solve. Dr. Helen Carter put a tablet on the table in front of Velthus. Your people told us about the Devourers. They're coming here. Velthus looked at the data and nodded slowly. 4 months, maybe less. When they arrive, they will destroy everything in this system. Not if we stop them first, Jake said. Velthus looked up sharply. You cannot stop the Devourers. No one can. They have destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than yours. Colonel Phillips, who had come up from the underground facility, spoke for the first time. Hi, Arbiter. A week ago you thought humans were primitive. How did that work out for you? Velthus was quiet for a moment. Then, for the first time since humans had met him, he smiled. You have a point, Colonel Phillips. Over the next several hours, they worked out a deal. The Galaxy Council would share all their knowledge about the Devourers and their technology. In return, Earth would help them fight the machines and would treat the Council as equals, not as rulers or subjects. There is one more thing, Velthus said as the meeting was ending. The quantum technology you used to make our fleet disappear. Could it work on the Devourers? Dr. Sophie Chen, who had joined the meeting by video link, answered that question. We don't know yet, but we're going to find out, and we're going to build a lot more quantum field generators. 3 weeks later, construction ships from both humans and the remaining Galaxy Council were working together throughout the solar system. They were building the largest network of quantum field generators ever imagined. If the Devourers came to destroy Earth, they would find a surprise waiting for them. Captain Amy Rodriguez was now leading joint patrols with Council pilots, learning how to work together. At first, it was strange to fly alongside the same aliens who had threatened her world, but she found that most of them were just people trying to survive, like humans. On Earth, the news was full of stories about the alien refugees who were now living in camps around the world. Some humans were afraid of them, but others were fascinated by their technology and culture. Children were learning alien languages in school, and alien children were learning to play human games. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge and looked out at the fleet that was now protecting Earth. Half the ships were human and half were from the Galaxy Council. A month ago, they had been enemies. Now they were allies preparing for the fight of their lives. Admiral, Tom Brady said, we're getting a signal from the deep space sensors. The Devourers have entered our sensor range. Jake nodded. How long? Until they get here? 6 weeks, sir. Jake looked at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships and thought about how much had changed. The Galaxy Council had learned that humans were not primitive. Humans had learned that they were not alone in facing the darkness between the stars. Tom, send a message to all ships, human and council, Jake said. Tell them that in 6 weeks, we're going to show the Devourers something they've never seen before. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a united galaxy. The Devourers were coming, but they would not find the same galaxy they had been conquering for thousands of years. They would find something new. Humans and aliens working together, armed with technology that could make entire fleets vanish, and with the determination to protect everything they cared about. The real war was about to begin.